He poked holes in the condoms without me knowing, and now I'm pregnant. When I found out about this, I was distraught. I'm not gonna lie. But the way I found out is insane. Let's get into it. So during college, I was pretty sexually active. I hooked up with guys on the regular and didn't do relationships because I always had bad experiences dating someone. And I just didn't find anyone worth my time. So I met this one guy, let's call him Damien. Damien was a wannabe gangbanger. Some people said he's legit, but I didn't really care what he was. He had a lot of money too. He swiped up on my Snapchat story and said I had a nice body and he wanted to hit, and I was down. So when we first met up, he had this nice place, almost like a mansion. So we did our thing and that was that. The aftercare was pretty good too, I'm not gonna lie. Then when I was about to leave, he asked me where I was going and I said home. He suggested that I should stay. I told him I didn't want to, so he gave me a ride home. Before I got out the car, he asked me out on a date. My gut was telling me no, but I decided to go anyways. So the next day he picked me up at 8 p.m. in his Mercedes. So we ended up going to the restaurant and he took me to a super expensive restaurant. You will not believe what restaurant it was. Come back for part 2. So we went on the date and he took me to the super expensive restaurant. He took me to Mastro's Steakhouse, and when I tell you that was the best steak I ever had, it was amazing. So we popped the question again, if I've made up my mind and if I decided I was going to give him a chance. Why not? He had money, doing the dirty was great, and he seemed like a pretty genuine guy. So I made it official with him. So I had to drop all of my hoes and just stay loyal to him. They were mad, but I didn't care. So the whole school ended up learning about it, and some people were happy for me and some people weren't. Some people said he was a cheater. I didn't care, he had money. So one day there was this girl who slid up on my Instagram telling me I shouldn't trust someone that he's bad news. I told Damien about it and he made me block her on everything, which was kind of weird. So one day he came over like usual, and I told him I was going to take a shower before doing anything. I have cameras set up in my house, mind you, because I just do for safety reasons. So when I came back, we ended up doing the dirty, but he told me the condom broke, and I freaked out. I demanded that he get me a plan B, and he did, but he seemed super upset about it. He left without even saying goodbye or I love you. I asked him what was wrong, and he just ignored me. Something was very, very off. I remember that girl that messaged me about him. So I unblocked her, and you will not believe what she said. Come back for part 3. Then I thought about that girl from long ago. I was curious about what she would have said. I unblocked her and contacted her explaining everything. And what she told me was unbelievable. She sent me pictures of him being emotionally abusive over text. She sent me voice recordings of him threatening her and showed me bruises on her face, all that. And screenshots of him cheating. She also showed me a picture of him poking holes in her condoms. She said she had to get an abortion because of that, and the reason why he did that was an attempt to trap her and make them connected forever. She found out because she wanted to test how strong the new condoms were, so she just put it underwater and found holes. So I decided I was going to do a test on him. The next day I invited him over again, told him I was going to take a shower, and left. My cameras were recording as well, just to see if he was lying. I finished my shower, came back, and he didn't open the condoms yet. I tried looking at the bag, but he snatched it and just told me to relax. I snatched the bag back from him and examined the condom, and it had 3 itty-bitty holes in it. I looked at another one and it was poked as well. I looked at him and said, Damien, what is this shit? And you will not believe what he responded with. Come back for part 4. I snatched the bag from him and examined the condom, and it had 3 itty-bitty holes in it. Damien, what is this shit? And he looked shocked and said he didn't know. I told him he poked holes in it and he got super mad and told me I was lying. I told him to get out and he grabbed my wrist saying no. I said to leave before I called the cops and he did. He was clearly lying. But the last and final test, the cameras. I opened my spy cam window on my browser and saw him just sitting there for 10 minutes. Then he took out a needle from his pocket and began poking holes in the condoms. He did it for like 10 of them, which is insane. He was literally trying to impregnate me. And he also could have gave me a disease. I immediately scheduled an appointment for Planned Parenthood and got tested. They did a screening on me for STDs and I was negative. They did a pregnancy test and however, I was positive. I was pregnant. She asked me what I wanted to do with it and I didn't know. So I scheduled another appointment to check back in for 2 weeks. I'm not really sure what to do. I don't know if I want a baby. I'm not mentally or physically prepared to do so. Help this girl out in the comments down below. Follow for more story times and follow my Instagram as well. I was nice to the weird girl and she tried to kill me. It was my senior year of high school, so that's practically the easiest, most laid-back year. Everyone was preparing for homecoming and prom, planning parties, all that jazz. I would say my popularity scale is up there. I had over 20 plus friends, so I was never alone. So I noticed this girl who's been alone since freshman year. Let's call her Amelia. So Amelia was your typical loner. She wore dark clothes, but she wasn't emo and she blended in with the rest of the crowd. I felt bad for her, so I decided to talk to her. She seemed really shy at first, but happy by the end of our conversation. We exchanged snaps and went on with her day. My friends told me not to talk to her because they don't know anything about her, but I told them everything will be fine. I told them I'll get to know her. One of my friends told me to be careful because she had a weird gut feeling about her. I told her that I would keep that in mind and thank you for looking out. So the next day I saw her in class and she gave me this big, long hug. I had to practically push her off. And then she started asking me personal questions. And this next question was disturbing. You will not believe what it was. Come back for part 2. She then started asking me personal questions and I was a little set back by them. She asked me how I lived, if I lived with anyone, if I was a virgin, etc. I declined some of those questions. Then we went back to doing our work in class. She would just stare at me the entire time, and it felt really uncomfortable. After this, she tried to hug me every single day, and whenever she did, she would grab my butt or my breasts. I told her to stop several times, but she just wouldn't listen. One day, she took a picture of me in the hallway, just randomly. I asked her why she did that, and she said that I looked pretty, and I said, oh, okay. I went to lunch, and my friends told me I shouldn't hang with that girl anymore. I asked them why. They said that she was going around telling people she chooses a victim every single year to kill. I sent her a text message asking her about this, and she said no, of course not. She told me she wanted to meet up with her after class, though, and I agreed. She told me not to tell anyone, and I said okay. I actually forgot to meet up with her, and the next morning I woke up with like 50 text messages. Some of them were saying, why aren't you here? Do you hate me? Where are you? So when I went to school the next day, there were cops there, and you will not believe what happens next. Come back for part 3. When I went to school the next day, the cops were there and I passed them. They looked me up and down, but not in a rude way, more of a concerned way. I went to my class and everyone was whispering around me. My friend Samantha asked if I was okay and I asked why. She showed me the Snapchat of Amelia following me holding a knife. I looked shocked. This was when I was walking home yesterday and I forgot to meet up with her. Next thing you know, the principal asked me to go to the office by calling my home teacher over the phone. I walked to the principal's office, met him there, and he sat me down in his office. He asked me if I knew anything about the picture Samantha just showed me, and I said no. He asked me if I did anything to cause this behavior from Amelia, and I told him no. I just talked to her because she didn't have any friends and she sent me over 50 messages when I didn't meet her after school. I showed him the text messages and he nodded. He told me he understood where I was coming from, but he had bad news. I had to switch to online school for the rest of the semester for safety purposes as they were trying to expel Amelia. He printed out our conversation and I was sent home. I went back the next school year and everything was fine. Amelia just wasn't there. Lesson learned, be careful who you talk to and always take your gut feelings from your friends. I burned his house down for a good reason, at least in my opinion. So I met this guy named Adam. Adam was someone I saw at the gym regularly. We would catch each other staring at each other and smiling. One day he asked if he could get my number and I agreed. Then we started sexting each other and flirting and soon we hooked up on a regular basis. Then one day he asked me to go on a date with him, which wasn't usual. I asked him if he was interested in making this official and he said yeah. So we went on a date and I'm not gonna lie, there were a couple of red flags. He made a couple of misogynistic comments and even a racist comment towards Asians, saying they brought COVID to America. But I corrected him on that and he apologized. I asked him his opinion on what females should and shouldn't wear, and he said nothing too revealing, so I got up and walked out. He called me and asked me what I did wrong and I told him that I'm going to dress however I want to. So it's either you put up with it or find someone else. And he said sorry and that he'd tolerate it. I said okay. So we ended up making it official. One day I slept over at his house and his phone was buzzing like crazy. I unlocked it with his face since he was a heavy sleeper. And there was a bunch of conversations with, you will not believe what happens next. Come back for part 2. I used his face to unlock it since he was a heavy sleeper and I looked through his phone. There was a bunch of girls and it turns out he had been having conversations with them back and forth. He said things like he was single, he wasn't in a relationship. He was talking to one girl and her contact name was Frida. He was talking about the fact that he was glad he's been doing stuff with her for years and that he hates the girl that he was dating, saying that I was your typical annoying feminist. I waited until he woke up and I made my breakfast. When I was eating, he woke up, he came into the kitchen and jokingly asked, nothing for me? And I said, I don't know, maybe ask Frida since I'm annoying and a feminist. His face dropped and then he looked mad. He asked me why I'd been going through his phone and I told him because it was buzzing like crazy and I saw these girls. I asked him why bother making it official if he was going to continue with his old ways. He told me that he was the man of the relationship, so whatever he says go and I shouldn't have a problem with that. I got up, packed my stuff for the night and left. While I was starting my car up, he came outside with a bat and literally smashed my window in and smashed one of my rear mirrors. I ended up driving away safely, but this meant revenge, and you will not believe what happens next. Come back for part 3. I had to think of the perfect revenge to get back at him. So, I decided to set his house on fire. I knew his working schedule, so I took a sick day off and knew where he kept his spare keys. I unlocked the door and decided how I was going to do it. I was wearing gloves, a bodysuit, and a helmet, so no evidence will be found. He had a pan on the stove, so I thought to leave the stove on. I decided to turn the gas stove all the way up and then it smelled like gas, meaning it was going to explode. I was about to leave and then I realized he had a dog. I actually like this dog. Whenever Adam was an asshole towards me, it would always come and comfort me. Honestly, I felt like it should have been my dog more than anything. So I took the dog and never looked back. Then, just to add on to it, I realized he had a Mercedes waiting outside. He had an extra car and used his other car for work. So I poked holes in 3 of the tires and put a pebble in it. Insurance wouldn't cover it and it'd be hard to fix. A week later on the news, they said there was a horrible fire and it was his house. They were interviewing him and he was crying. Karma's a bitch. Follow for more story times. My therapist took advantage of me without me realizing it. So it was my sophomore year of high school and recently I just lost my father. I didn't have any other man figure in my life since my father was the only one and my family was full of girls. My sisters and mother noticed I was becoming more depressed, so they recommended that I go to therapy. I really didn't want to because I didn't find it beneficial and I had a bad feeling about it, but I went anyways. So when I got there, we were asked the questions, I got my personal info, all that jazz. They basically did a reevaluation. They told us to come back next week to actually meet with a doctor to see if I wanted him or not. And so we did. So we'll call him Dr. Stewart. Dr. Stewart was really kind and gentle. He reminded me of my dad. I decided that I chose him to be my therapist since I met 3. He was really understanding and he was really nice. I actually didn't regret going to therapy at this point. He also said I was pretty, which no one really ever said to me before. He comforted me while I was crying, and midway of me crying, he ended up laughing. I was confused and stepped back, but you will not believe what he said next. Come back for part 2. I ended up looking up confused, and what he said next really set me back and shocked me a bit. He said I looked cute when I was crying and apologized for laughing. I said it was fine, and I said thanks, but I was still confused. After that, we continued talking more and the session ended. The next session, he asked me if I've ever done anything to hurt myself since there are other healthier ways to go about it. I showed him marks on my arm because I trusted him, and he touched them and said that they were beautiful scars and they are part of me now. But I shouldn't intentionally hurt myself again. I was confused but also flattered. We continued talking and we found healthier ways to release stress and we were both satisfied. When our session was over, I was kind of sad and said, I wish I could talk to you whenever and not just on scheduled days. He then wrote on a piece of paper and gave me his number and said to keep it a secret since this wasn't professional. He said if I needed any more time to talk, just call him up or text him. I promised to keep it a secret. One day I felt a bad wave of depression and texted him. I asked if I could see him because I needed someone to talk to, and he agreed. So I ended up taking the bus to his house. And when I got there, you will not believe what happens next. Come back for part 3. So I asked if I could see him, and he said that I could as long as I kept it a secret. So I promised to keep it a secret. He ended up texting me his address and I ended up taking the bus over there. He lived in an apartment complex. So I went through the building and went up to his front door and knocked and he opened. He told me to come in and it smelled really good in there. He gave me a hug and asked me what was wrong. I started crying and breaking down and just talking about my problems. He ended up giving me advice and then out of nowhere he said he was going to be right back. He went to his room and grabbed a box. And he handed the box for me. He said he had a gift for me. So I opened it and it was this really pretty necklace. I told him thank you. Next thing you know, he ended up leaning in trying to kiss me. I asked him what he was doing. And he said, well, I thought this is what you came for. I looked at him in shock and said no. I ended up running out of the house and blocking his number. I told my mom that I wanted to change therapists and I've never told anybody about this. Lesson learned, always keep things professional. Follow for more. Put my period blood in her drink for revenge. So I used to be friends with this girl, let's call her Mackenzie. I've been friends with her my whole life and we got along pretty well. One time we were joking around how we usually do and she called my mom the N-word with the hard R. I told her not to joke like that and that I didn't appreciate it. She said she didn't care and proceeded to do it anyways. I felt like slapping the crap out of her. But I ended up going home. She ended up texting me saying she was sorry, begging for my forgiveness, and I forgave, thinking people could change. So we hung out at the mall and this boy came up to me with his group of friends and asked me if he could chill with us because he thought I was cute. I agreed. Everything was fine, we were having a good time, but Mackenzie was one of those girls who typically switched up whenever boys were around because she's boy crazy and always wants to make herself look better. She brought up embarrassing moments from when I was young, such as I used to pee on my bed, and that I shaved my eyebrows off. She always did this in front of boys trying to make herself look better. I relaxed before I got hyped and just let her. One of the guys said that wasn't cool and I should stick up for myself, but I told him I'm acting calm because I have the best revenge in mind. So then after that, we said our goodbyes and went to my house. We had a good time, but then she was hungry and asked for cherry Kool-Aid. And you will not believe what happened next. Come back for part 2. So I made some nachos with ground beef, cheese, and salsa, and made a whole pitcher of Kool-Aid. I brought it to my room since I have a table in my room. I set the food down and she didn't even say thank you, might I add. She also said the cheese was cheap tasting while looking me up and down. I said I was going to the bathroom real quick since I needed to take out my tampon and put on a pad. So she asked me if on the way I could grab her some more Kool-Aid. I gave her a dirty look and took the cup. She usually drinks all of my Kool-Aid in one day because she's impulsive with consuming food and beverages. She's selfish, to put it short. I brought her cup to the laundry room because it was across the downstairs bathroom and I had to pee badly. Then I got the crazy idea for karma. At first, I was going to sprinkle laxatives into her food, but this one was better and more evil. I went into the guest bathroom, took my tampon out and swirled it in her cup for a bit. I squeezed it too. Then I put a fresh pad on, poured in the Kool-Aid and added a tad more sugar in case it was salty and went back to the room. Here you go, enjoy, I said as she laughed and drank it. I stared at her the whole time and smiled. After that, she went home and I blocked her on everything. I'm definitely never going to tolerate a racist disrespecting me and my mother. Hopefully she sees this story someday and learns her lesson. Follow for more story times. She tried to kill me over a boy. I used to be friends with this girl, let's call her Erica. I met Erica off Yubo during 2017 and she was your typical cute alt girl who wore cinnamon roll hats, fishnets, dark makeup, and dark clothes. She was really pretty in my opinion. I was the opposite though. I liked Forever 21, Hollister, the mainstream stores. I would say I was the ideal beauty standard. So we were talking for about 5 months and decided to meet up. We both lived in New York City, but I lived in Manhattan and she was in the Bronx, so she just came to see me since she's never been in Manhattan. We ended up meeting and gave each other the biggest hug. It was so fun. Went to a cat cafe, we went to a big mall, shopping plaza, etc. I asked her if she wanted to sleep over at my house and she said sure. We went to my apartment, took our showers, and got ready for bed. She was swiping on Yubo and saw this cute boy, so she decided to text him. They were getting it on. So she decided I was her bestie now and that I had to meet him, so she put us in a group chat and we started talking. He introduced himself to me and he seemed like a pretty cool guy. He was even cute, I'm not going to lie. I congratulated her, gassed her up, and told her that he's cute and she's lucky. You will not believe what she said next. Come back for part 2. She said thank you, but what she said next literally should have been a red flag. She said, ever take him from me and I'll kill you. Literally. And she looked serious and I looked uncomfortable, and then she laughed and said she was joking and slapped my arm in a playful manner. I laughed, but something was telling me something weird was going on, but whatever. So we ended up just watching a bunch of horror movies and she was just really touchy and immediately felt comfortable with me. I felt uncomfortable, but I didn't say anything. After that, she went home and we continued texting. One day, I got a DM from the guy she was talking to. He was asking me about her and asked if she was loyal, and I said yes, she is, and gassed her up. After that, he started flirting with me and acting weird. He was calling me cute and said I had a nice body. I started screen recording just in case he tried to pull something stupid. I told him to stop and that this was inappropriate and he needs to tell Erica before I tell her. He said he was sorry and begged for me not to say anything. I told him I was going to give him 24 hours to say something before I do, and to never speak her again, and that he was a scumbag. So one day I was at the salon and got a text from Erica, and you will not believe what it said. Come back for part 3. So Erica called me and said she wanted to meet me real quick and asked where I was. It was 6 p.m. so it was getting pretty dark, but I agreed to meet with her anyways. We met in the dark and she looked pissed. I went to give her a hug and she pushed me back and pulled out a gun on me. So you've been texting my man behind my back? What the F did I tell you? I started crying and hyperventilating, telling her I didn't do anything. She didn't believe me and told me to get on the floor. She held the gun to my head and I covered my face. She told me to count to 10 and then get up. I counted to 10 and when I got up, she walked away. After that, I blocked her on everything, blocked the dude, and continued with my life. During 2019, she contacted me telling me she was sorry and that she didn't know he lied. I sent her their screen recording and cursed her out and told her she was worthless. And she told me the reason why she was so over defensive was because she was secretly in love with me the whole time. And still was till that day. When she confessed, I blocked her on everything and moved on with my life. I still haven't spoken to her till this day, and I am in a healthy, normal relationship. Lesson learned, Yubo isn't the best place to meet people. Follow me for more story times, and feel free to follow my Insta. I am the murderer to my brother's girlfriend's baby. So a little bit of a backstory. My brother got this girlfriend, let's call her Emily. So I liked Emily a lot. At first I thought she was pretty great and all. She was practically the perfect girlfriend. She brought him goodie bags whenever he was down, gave him massages, she even helped us plan a surprise birthday party. She was his rock and she always managed to make him feel better when he was down. He even went as far as talking about marrying her. Then one day they had a really bad argument and she stormed out of her house. I asked my brother what was wrong and he yelled at me for asking and went into his room and started throwing stuff. All everyone could hear was screaming and throwing things. I asked my mother what I should do, and she asked for me to give him space and make him feel better after. She also told me to try and talk to him after he's calm, since I was the closest to him. I agreed and I took a nap in my room, since I knew it'd take a while. He had a temper. So after that, I went to his room and knocked. He opened the door and let me in. His room was so messy, but I helped him clean it after. I asked him what was wrong and why Emily stormed out of the room like that. And you will not believe what he told me. Come back for part 2. He told me that he potentially caught her cheating. I was so mad. I was about to text her, but he told me to stop because I could be wrong. I asked him why he came up with an accusation like this, and he said they were watching a movie and chilling and stuff. And then her phone kept buzzing like crazy. He ended up grabbing her phone as a joke, but she was so possessive over it. More possessive than usual. Then he glanced while she was fighting for it and saw a baby. And he asked what it was. She said she didn't know why her cousin kept texting her like that. He said he wanted to believe her, but he couldn't understand why she was so possessive over the phone. They then got into an argument and she then said she wished she never dated him and ran out. I honestly didn't like her anymore. I told him I thought he should break up with her, but he didn't know and he was torn. He was in love with her, which I get, but doesn't excuse her cheating. A week later, she comes back and they are good. I told Emily I wanted to talk to her and she looked nervous. I told her if I found out that she's cheating on him, there's going to be a problem. No BS. I'm 100% serious. Nodded her head and walked away. I smirked and went back to my room. Everything was fine after that. They went to their normal selves. My sister was holding a gender reveal, and you will not believe what happened there. Come back for part 3. So my brother invites Emily, and that's kind of annoying because it's a family event, but my mom insisted and said she was family, even though I didn't think so. So the day of the baby shower, he brings Emily and I just ignore her. They did a gender reveal and it was a boy and a girl since she surprised us with twins. We were so happy and we hugged her in celebration. Then Emily and my brother started fighting again. They started bickering. but I was near them, so I was the only one able to hear them. Then after that, it got louder and she pushed him while they were standing up and everyone looked. Then I pushed her and told her to back up and relax. Then she slapped my face and we ended up fighting. I was smaller than her, so she had an advantage over me and she ended up beating me up. People had to separate us. After I screamed and ran into the house and came up with a bat and hit her back. She screamed in pain and told me to stop and I hit her 2 times in the stomach. She then coughed and blood started running down her legs. I paused and everyone was confused. Ambulance came for her and I went back inside. No one talked to me because they knew I was mad. They ended up breaking up because she had a miscarriage and she never told him she was pregnant. I didn't mean to, but you weren't gonna sit here and hit my brother. Karma's a bee. Follow for more story times and follow my Instagram if you can too. He cheated on me with 2 family members. So I met this guy, let's call him Oliver. I met him during my college years and now we're engaged since we clicked so well. He was a pretty great guy. He was a little dull sometimes, but he always remembers the small details and that's what matters. So one day I came home from work and I set my bags down and everything. Then I saw a pair of underwear on our couch. It was hot pink. I don't like hot pink for one, and I never wear cheekster underwear. I tried calling him and he didn't answer. I looked for anything else, but I didn't find it. The underwear seemed like it just came out of the wash, which is weird. He came home and I asked him what this was. He said it was my underwear. I told him he can't play that game on me, but he made up this really good lie, which I forgot at the time, and he said, "Do you remember that one time we went to Walmart and you got the pack of underwear, but you didn't like one of them? That's what it was." And I paused and then said, "Oh," because it made a lot of sense at the time and I was too tired to focus, so I just brushed it off. We ended up sitting and watching a movie and I saw his phone buzzing. When he went up to the bathroom, I looked through his phone and he was texting my sister. Him and my sister talked about meeting up at her place tomorrow. You will not believe what happened next. Come back for part 2. It was my birthday tomorrow, so I just figured they were planning out my birthday party. He came back while I was looking at his phone and he snatched it from me. He said, "Why are you looking at my phone, blank?" I looked in shock and said, "Why are you calling me that?" He responded with, "Because you're looking through my phone without permission." I told him that doesn't excuse it and he said he was sorry. I then got up and went to bed. He tried to hug me, but I declined. He asked me why I was overreacting and I told him I demanded respect. He also called me a blank. That's not okay. No one should ever call their lover a derogatory term. So the next morning he was getting dressed and I asked him where he was going. He said to my sister's. I asked him why and he said it was because it was a secret. So he drove off and I decided to go drive to him because I was upset and I didn't trust him. An hour or 2 later, I drove to my sister's apartment, went up the elevator of her building and unlocked it with her spare key. I walked in and saw her with the bra and underwear on, naked. She looked at me in shock and she tried to calm me down, but I ran to her bedroom and saw my grandmother and fiance in the bed, getting it down. I left, cut them off and never spoke to them again.
Hi, my name is Andrea. Throughout our lives, we encountered many people who are jealous of us for various reasons. For me, it was, unfortunately, my mother. I know it sounds weird, but it's true. She never liked me because she was jealous of how pretty I was. When I was 13, Mom was taking me on a train somewhere. We changed cities and jobs often, sometimes in less than a year. Oh, and there was one other thing. She had never told me who my dad was. At the train station, this lady came up to me when Mom had just left to buy snacks and asked if I'd ever thought about modeling. When I shook my head, she gave me a card and explained that she was a talent manager and saw potential in me. I'd been called pretty before. I was very attractive also. When Mom saw her with me, she snatched the card away from the woman and asked what I was doing with her. I tried to explain, but she was too angry. She literally pushed the woman aside, grabbed my hand, and marched away. When we got to the train, she asked me if I had told the woman anything about me. I shook my head and said, she only wanted to ask me if I wanted to model. "You're not even pretty enough to be a model," Mom said. But I knew this just wasn't true, as I've heard many people tell me I was the prettiest girl they'd ever seen. Mom was so mean. From that day onwards, she made me dress in baggy clothes, 3 sizes bigger than me, and didn't let me get a decent haircut. She always insisted on cutting my hair extremely short, so my bangs had never actually grown past my shoulders, and I had uneven bangs. She never even let me buy makeup, not even lip gloss. I was the only girl who went to school without any makeup. She didn't even let me have my own phone or have any presence on social media. With the ugly clothes Mom wore, she was hardly noticeable. Sometimes I would catch her looking out the window with tears in her eyes, but when I asked her about it, she never said anything. But even though I dressed like a total homeless person, Boys huddled around my locker to get my number just to talk to me. Some of the girls envied me while others wanted to be my friend, but it was for all the wrong reasons. They thought they would get more popular if they stuck with me, but those friendships didn't last when they realized that I rarely left my home during the weekends because of my strict mother. In my sophomore year, a senior guy named Daniel asked me to the town ball. He was a football player. A few of the girls in my class were jealous of me since getting invited was a big deal as it was a televised event with news coverage. They told me not to bother going to the dance since I couldn't afford a nice dress anyway. I knew this was true, but I had always been good at creative things. I quickly looked up tutorials on sewing and then went down to the local thrift store and bought meters of lace and satin among other things. The next few weeks, I was cooped up in my room trying to finish my dress. I started daydreaming about it and picturing myself having it on. For once in my life, I would have something pretty to wear. I didn't have appropriate shoes, so I knew I had to borrow one of my mom's. I sneaked up to the attic where I knew she kept her things locked away and started looking for shoes. I picked up what I thought was a shoebox, but inside there were a bunch of photographs, many of them of my mother. I was surprised to see the pictures, as my mom appeared to be around my age, and she looked a lot like me now in those pictures. In some of them, she was with a guy, and I wondered if it was my dad. Over time, her beauty had faded, and she did nothing to care for herself either. I kind of figured out why she was jealous of me. I found a pair of silver shoes I liked and wondered how she could manage to buy it, as it looked quite expensive. The day of the dance came around, and I woke with the biggest smile on my face, but it was replaced by a shriek when I noticed my dress. Someone had cut it in various places. The satin was mangled and torn, and there was no way I could fix this disaster. My beautiful dress was ruined, but I immediately knew who had done it. I went to my mom and demanded answers. She didn't even try to deny it. I burst into tears. I had daydreamed about that dance for weeks now, and my mother had crushed my dreams so cruelly. "If you go to the dance, they will recognize you," she said. This confused me. "Who will?" I asked in confusion, but she didn't reply. She looked around shiftily and her eyes kind of narrowed and she looked almost paranoid. I texted Daniel to let him know that I wouldn't be able to make it to the ball. I was extremely surprised when he showed up at my door later that night. He told me that it didn't feel right taking someone else there when he had set his heart on me. My heart melted at his words. I started spending more and more time with Daniel. He kissed me for the first time on my 16th birthday. It was truly magical. I was absolutely head over heels in love with him, but my mother couldn't stand seeing me happy for too long. She had forbidden me from dating anyone, so I had to lie about it. She stopped me from going out many times and ruined my dates with Daniel, but I persisted and I would sneak out when she didn't know any better. One night, after one of Daniel's football games, we went out to dinner. He had invited some of his other friends, and they in turn had brought their girlfriends along. One of the girls made a video of me singing and uploaded it to TikTok. Overnight, I went viral as the pretty karaoke girl. Unfortunately, Mom too eventually found out. When I came home from school that day, she asked me to explain the video and knew I couldn't hide the truth any longer. I told her everything. She looked almost afraid. But why? She started scolding me, but I couldn't understand what I had done to set her off like that. Eventually, I just couldn't take it anymore. "Can you not be jealous of me for once?" At that point, she completely shut up and locked herself in her room. That night, I heard her crying from her room. I felt guilty, but I also knew that it was time that I took a stand for myself. I wasn't too bothered to talk to her as school kept me busy. I was getting used to my school life with Daniel becoming a big part of it. But my happiness was quickly cut short when Mom announced that we would be moving away yet again. I begged her countless times not to do it and even deleted the TikTok on her demand. But she refused to listen to me. I had no choice but to leave my old life and Daniel behind. I reluctantly settled into the new town with Mom, but I still missed Daniel. Right then, I decided I would save enough money, and once I was an adult, I will definitely leave Mom. To get my mind off Daniel, Mom allowed me to get a job at the mall. One day when I was working, an older man in an expensive suit walked up to me. He looked familiar for some reason. "Have I seen you somewhere before?" he asked. I shook my head no. He stared at my face for a few minutes before he left the store. The next day, he showed up again. He had kind eyes and a charming smile, but then things took a weird turn as he began to ask more and more personal questions. He asked me where I went to school and where my mom worked and even our house address. I was growing more and more suspicious. I decided to tell Mom about it and she freaked out. She caught me by my arm and said, "What exactly did you tell him?" I said, "Calm down, Mom. Geez, I know better than to trust strangers." As if on cue, there was a knock on the door. Mom and I looked at each other as the knocks became more persistent until someone was literally banging on the door. I had never seen my mother frightened like this. She told me to head upstairs and hide in the bathroom, but instead I stood behind the staircase landing. The door opened, and to my surprise, it was the same man from the store. They spoke for a few moments before the man demanded to see me, but my mother refused. "I have every right to see my daughter. You took her away from me without my consent or knowledge," he yelled. I gasped in shock. After all those years of trying to figure out who my father was, he was actually here. I realized that I had seen his pictures with my mom in the shoebox. I stepped out of my hiding place and Dad smiled at me, asking if I wanted to go with him. I nodded yes, with tears streaming down my face. I was finally reunited with my father, but my jealous mother tried to block my way. "You can't go with him." I was angry. "You lied to me about everything," I yelled. "You're just jealous of me because I get to go live with Dad and you don't." I went to my room and packed my clothes and other stuff. I was finally free of my evil, jealous mom. When I left with my dad, to my surprise, she didn't try to stop me. Dad told me that he had been trying to track us down for years, but for the longest time, he thought we were dead. But then he realized me from my TikTok video because of how much I resembled Mom when she was a teenager. He explained that he had followed me home from the store today to figure out where I lived. We drove for a few hours before pulling up to this huge mansion. It was true. My father was a rich man. He showed me around and told me I could have any room I wanted. I was on cloud 9. This was the life I had always dreamt of, one with a loving parent and no hardships. We had a large pool in the backyard where I swam in the afternoon. The food was amazing, and I could eat to my fill. Besides, I had my own walk-in closet and vanity. Basically, everything Mom never let me have. I asked Dad what he did for a living, and he said he had a big business empire. I wondered why Mom had left him in the first place. Since growing up, we never had money. Besides, Dad was so nice. I asked him about it, and he said that he was about to divorce her, so she took away the one thing he loved, me. I asked my dad when I could return back to school since I missed having people my age around. He told me he didn't want me out of his sight and that I would be homeschooled instead. I was disappointed to hear it. I tried to contact Daniel, but my dad caught me texting and told me I wasn't allowed to date boys yet. Sometimes Dad would disappear for hours, leaving me at the big mansion all by myself. He was always busy with work. There were servants to take care of me, but I always felt lonely. Mom didn't try to contact me. Sometimes I couldn't help but wonder what she was up to. She couldn't have just disappeared from my life. One day, I decided to go for a walk outside the mansion, and none of the servants were around to stop me. As I walked down the street, suddenly someone grabbed my arm. When I turned around, I was surprised to see that it was my mother. She looked like a crazy person. She caught my wrist and tried to drag me away. I screamed. A servant heard me and came running. When I turned around, Mom had already disappeared. When Dad came home, I told him everything. He was angry and scolded me for going out alone where I wasn't safe. When he saw how upset that made me, he apologized. Later, he came to me with some papers and told me to sign it. He said he was officially taking my custody so Mom couldn't hurt me again. I was so happy that I signed away the papers without reading them. It's true that Dad wasn't perfect, but living with him was way better than living with Mom. A few nights later, I went downstairs to drink water when I saw my dad in his study, but he wasn't alone. He was speaking to another man, and what he said made my blood run cold. He was ordering them to kill my mother. Apparently, she had gone into hiding after he brought me home, and he was trying to lure her out. None of it made any sense to me. Why would he want to kill Mom? They saw me outside the door, and before I could run away, Dad seized me. That's when I saw his true face for the first time. "Why are you doing this?" I asked. He didn't answer me and instead dragged me to my room where he snatched my phone. "Call your mother now," he demanded, "and ask her to meet you at this address." I had no choice. I dialed Mom's number. When she picked up, I kept my voice neutral. "Mommy, can you come pick me up at this address? I ran away from Dad. I know he's evil," I said. "Are you okay, Andrea?" she asked. "Yeah, I am. I love you, Mom." With that, I disconnected. Dad gave me an evil smile. He knew evil smile. He knew evil